I was just so open the first time about everything. I was talking with everybody and it's not that I felt invincible. I just was confident, and it was a little bit naive in hindsight, is that I just was allowing a lot and not thinking through how sacred the time is and how I need to be more protective of it.
Welcome to the Hey Mama podcast. We're your hosts, Tessa and Shayna. We are sisters, mothers, and doulas, and are passionate about living an intentional life and all things motherhood. This podcast exists to create community as we learn how to delight in motherhood together.
Join us weekly as we chat with women about anything and everything from non-toxic living to women's health to feeding our families and our favorite topic of all, birth. We are so glad you're here.
Please keep in mind, the views of our guests may not necessarily reflect our own and vice versa.
This is not medical advice. We always encourage you to do your own research and make an informed decision. Let's get to it.
Well, hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to have a very special dear friend and guest and mama on today. But before we jump into that, Shayna, how was your day, week,
night? Day
morning?
Was good. My night was a little rough. River was just a little sweet pea. And, she's been going through something, teething or growth spurt, or I feel like there's always something at this point where I'm like, I don't really know what's going on, but then a little tooth will pop through, or I'll have a dream. I always have a dream that she has a tooth popping through, and then the next morning she wakes up and I can see a little tooth coming through.
Did you know that that's how it happened with Sage for his very first tooth?
Yeah, you told me that.
Oh.
I thought we bonded over this.
Oh, well,
we can rebond.
Literally, I have not realized that's been happening though consistently for you.
It hasn't happened with her molars. Her molars were, those bad boys took their sweet time.
Yeah.
But besides that, all the other ones, because her molars I could feel prior, where I haven't been able to feel any of their teeth, and I literally just see them through her gums. And I'm like, because she's so willing, she always puts stuff in her mouth, so I have to dig in there a lot. Now she's learned to go, and then thinks it's hilarious to run away from me. I'm like, okay, River, please come back here. This is not a game. Anyway, so that was your day.
My week, it's been good. Today was busy, and I was able to see my midwife, which was sweet and wonderful. And I saw my chiro, and I got adjusted, and I felt a lot better. And I'd say I never see Sage's teeth, as you know. His top teeth, well, he's a little like slower on the teeth end, but his top teeth are always covered by his top lip. So Shayna, even the other day, was like, let me see those, and lifts up his lip. It was almost like a little invasive to him.
I know. I did feel bad about it, but he had 4 teeth.
Yeah,
I was like, when did that happen?
Yeah, he's had them for months and months. But the thing is that he has a big juicy lip, big juicy lips, and literally those teeth his lips cover his teeth. So you never see his teeth for River. You see her teeth in every photo, and it's so freaking cute.
They're just there. Ding!
There's a little gap in between.
They're so cute. Yeah, she's got like 12, I think, now.
Yeah, she's way more than Sage. Come on, buddy. She's going to pass you up.
We are so excited for today's episode. She's one of my best friends, mama, one of the crunchiest mamas we know, and we love her so, so much. And we're so excited to hear about her birth of both her babies, Evie and Leviel. And we're just so excited. So Ashley, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about yourself, we would love that.
Hello.
Hello.
So happy to be here with you guys. I'm Ashley. I live here in LA. I wear a lot of hats, but most importantly, I'm a wife of almost 5 years and a mom of 2.
Those are 2 very important hats. And
yes.
We love those hats that you wear. Well, we
here
know
on the Hey Mama podcast.
Yeah.
Exactly. We know you kind of have a wild story with both of your births being very different from one another. But can you tell us a little bit about the care that you chose for your first with Evie?
Yeah, so with Evie, I always knew, like, from being a child that I wanted to do a home birth. I'm not a big doctor person. No offense to doctors out there. It's just not my vibe. So, like, I knew 100% that I wanted to go the route of home birth, get a midwife, all that. When I first found out I was pregnant, I just went to my regular doctor because I had gone for a checkup like a month before. And she was like, well, whenever you decide to have babies, like the second you get pregnant, call me. And I was like, all right, I can follow instructions. Let's do that. So I did. And I went in and I got the blood testing confirmed. And then she sent me over to like the OB that was in the same practice. So I had like 1 or 2 appointments with an OB while I was searching for whichever midwife I was going to choose. And then the way I found my midwife, it was your midwife, our midwife, the midwife.
Yes. We all have the same midwife.
Yeah. Is through a friend who actually for Emmy's birth ended up being the role of my doula as well. So that's how I started off with the whole pregnancy journey and choosing.
How unique of you, just as your firstborn, right? You're the oldest in your family. And then with your firstborn, you knew you wanted to do that from the start. So cool. Yeah. So unique. Yeah. But
and
why
different for my mom? Because my mom's in the hospital.
Why did you think that kind of shift? Just with, okay, yeah, you're not a big doctor person, but that's still such a different route to take. So what do you think was...
I had some of my closest friends when I was like really, really little, they had all been home births. And like, I knew that they were the very, very crunchy family. And like, they just did everything a little bit differently. Like they didn't go to the regular doctor. They were they were homeschooled. Their mom like put their vitamins out for them like every single morning. So like when I would go over to their house for sleepovers and stuff, we would wake up and they would have like all their vitamins set out. And I'm like, this is so interesting. I just have my one like gummy. I'm like, what are all these things?
Yes. So we're taking liver capsules at 8.
Yes. No, literally. So like
balancing their
back.
I love it.
No, honestly though, I looked back and I've talked with them now where I'm like, I realized that your mom actually had like a lot of influence on me. So it was that, but then also when I was a teenager, I nannied for a family that did home birth. That's like what they did. So, and the mom was like saying praises of it. She's like, this is what you want. This is the greatest thing in the world. And I was like, you're right. You are right. That is what I want.
I love it.
That's so cool.
That is so cool. So exciting just from the beginning to know. Okay, so then you're looking for your midwife. You're looking for her. Yes. You find her through a mutual friend. How did care and pregnancy look like with her and with your firstborn?
Oh, it was great. It was so good. So I had the care, obviously, like the midwifery version of care versus OB, like all of your appointments are more personal, also more relaxed, and it's just very calm. Because I had 2 appointments with the OB, and the first one was just like, hey, yes, we'll confirm you're pregnant and do all the things, right? And then the next appointment, any questions that I had, like, she was very dismissive of me and would look at my husband and I, and any question, she would just kind of laugh at us. And I'm like, why are you laughing? We've never done this before. How are we supposed to know? I understand that, like, you guys do this all day, every day, but I've never had a baby. My husband has no idea what we're doing. So it put a bad taste in our mouth a lot. And then with our midwife, it was just every question she had an answer for, and it was like an educated answer, and encouraged us to go do our own research on things where it's like, well, we would ask questions, like we would ask a doctor and be like, well, what do you think I should do? Just like, well, here are your options. You have to decide what you want to do. Not just, well, I think as the professional, you should do this. It was never, ever that. It was like, I had to really ask her for her to give me her opinion about it, where more she just like gave me all the options. I'm like, okay, but what's the best option? And she's like, well, you have to do your own research and you have to figure that out. So that was a huge shift, which was awesome. It made me feel empowered, but also was just very calming, and I didn't feel like I was asking dumb questions. So that was probably the biggest. My pregnancy, should I just talk about that a little bit, I guess? Yeah. So it was good. It was a good one. I really did not believe I was pregnant at first because I didn't have like any symptoms other than my period being gone. I was like, I don't know what's happening. It's not there. And I think the first 2 pregnancy tests I took were negative too. So I was like in disbelief. And then I was like, there's like a human growing inside of me. This is so weird. So it was very good. I didn't really change anything about my life through pregnancy. Like I just continued doing everything as normal. I'm super active. You guys know I do all the yoga things. So I didn't really change anything because I was like, I still can. Might as well still do. So I just did that for the entirety of my pregnancy. And it wasn't, I really didn't have any bad symptoms or things like that. I started having back pain, which in hindsight could have done a lot about that, but I just didn't. I was like, it's fine. I'm pregnant. Of course I'm going to have aches and pains. It's going to be great.
Right.
So I just like powered through that. But overall, it was like very good. I didn't have any like big red flags. It was very low risk, which was awesome. It was a very good first like pregnancy experience, which I'm very thankful for.
Yeah. And so cool that, I would say you are our yogi girl.
Never
And
stopped.
I was like, you never stopped. And you were just incredible. Your
Yeah.
body, it was
I
just
had
so
a
cool
lady.
that
I'll tell you finish, but then I'll tell you it's funny.
I was saying, it's just so cool to, it was so cool to like watch your body grow and like make room for baby, but then you still be able to keep up with it, and just like this beautiful like juxtaposition of like, you know, you're doing insane movements and
Inversions. And yeah.
but yet you literally have this belly.
I like
and your
growing
body
this
is,
baby.
Yeah, it was so graceful.
It
and
was.
elegant. And yeah. Like as the new life was forming, you were just growing with it.
Yeah.
But, like you didn't have to change.
Oh, I love it.
You should post more of those photos.
Or the pregnancy yoga photos.
Yeah. But go finish what you were saying.
Oh, I was just going to say that with all, because I was doing all of these things, I'm around, because I was the first. I'm the firstborn. My husband's firstborn in his family. So we're like the first having the babies. And so it was very much like a big deal on both sides, both for family and friends. And so there were some people in my husband's like sphere, it wasn't family, it was like friends, who at one point saw me do the splits and told me that if I continued to do that, the baby would just fall out. And then I had to stop doing the splits. She's like, you can't do the splits while you're pregnant.
You're like, you actually
she's
have
like,
no
you can't
idea.
do that. Yeah, it was very funny. All of the opinions of all the people.
Yes.
Yeah.
People
People
are you sure that's safe? And I'm like, yeah, it's safe. It's good. I checked with my midwife. I actually did a handstand in one of my appointments because when I was like super early pregnant, to like try to get her to come up so
That
we
is
could hear her
hilarious.
on the Doppler because she kept hiding below like my pelvic bone. So I was like, if you could do a handstand, I was like, oh, I can.
you're like, phew. Thank God.
Got
I've been wanting
it.
to.
Gotta get it out. I've only done 12
cool.
today.
There was like a little scuff on her wall where my shoe hit, like up when I did the handstand.
That's hilarious. I love it. So cool. Okay, so yeah, you're the firstborn, this is your first grandchild. You decide to do a home birth. You're a wild woman, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about
which family was interesting about that, like the opinions of family on what I was going to do, especially my husband's side, because my family knew. They know I'm the hippie one. They know that I'm probably going to do something outside the box. Like that's not it wasn't a shell shock when I was like, yes, I'm doing a home birth. They're like, cool. My husband's side was like, you're doing what? I'm like, yeah, I'm doing a home birth. And my mother-in-law was like, what do you mean a home birth? And I was like, I'm going to have the baby at home. She's like, I don't think you can do that. And I'm like, you can. People do it all the time. So it was interesting. It was a lot of explaining because a lot of questions. It's like, oh, what does that mean? Well, what happens if something bad happens? And just all of the different, like very fear-filled questions. We were answering a lot of them because we had to talk to all the people, and we were very like open about it. We were very comfortable just talking about all of it and accepting all of the questions, and I felt very like confident in my decision. I'm like, this is what we're going to do. It's going to be great. So anybody that asked, I just told them. I was like, yeah, we're doing home birth. We're going to do this. We're going to do that, which then always opened up more and more and more questions.
Yeah. I love though that you guys did that. I feel like it's just some people do so many different things. I know we were a little bit more like private, and if someone asked us, we would tell them. And then sometimes we'd be like, well, we also knew all those questions. I'm like, it's just a lot sometimes to kind of always be hearing those opinions. So I think that you guys are just so strong and confident. Like, yeah, we're doing this. This is why we're doing this. And that's it. That's all there is to it. And I just love that. I think that's great. It's a really cool, good perspective.
It was good.
About it.
Well, just it's making it like you're just normalizing it.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have a chicken sandwich for lunch, and we're having a home birth, and it's not that big of a deal.
Yep.
And honestly, I was just listening to a podcast by Birth Uprising, was on Happy Home Birth. It's an old one.
Yes.
But basically, she just
I listened to it.
like, yeah. But it's just more like, okay, life went on. Like I told my husband, no, don't leave work. I'm at Trader Joe's.
Like, we're
I just got to
chilling.
breathe through this. It's going to be another. Oh, he came home at 6 p.m. The next day, she's like, it just was a normal day. And the world didn't end. The world didn't stop for me either. I'm like trying to imitate her voice. Her voice is so specific. But it didn't. Your day went on. Life went on.
Yeah.
And that's such a cool thing of like, it's not the end of the world. This is not a catastrophe. Everything's going to happen. Baby's going to come out of you. Yeah. And you're going to be just fine.
It's not going to stay forever.
Yeah. And it's a cycle of life.
Yeah.
And this is what people were doing for centuries before
How do you
the
think
hospital
humans have
came
survived?
around. Yes. So it's just we're very much conditioned at this point that you give birth
Especially
at a
in
hospital.
America.
Yes. And a doctor delivers your baby.
And it's a life altering, which it is. It's the most transformational thing in the world, but I love just her like chillness of like you're saying, like it's not gonna be that big of a deal.
Like this is
we're just gonna have a baby at home.
Yep. And it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so you have all the questions, and you're like, yeah, we're doing a home birth. I'll answer all your questions. I'm really nice, Ashley, and I'm, you're really nice.
And I will just be super open and tell you everything.
Okay, so how does that look? So you start to go into labor.
Yes, I do.
Tell
us. My due date changed with Evelette a few times. Super fun. So if we go off the due date that I was going off of, she came at 39 and something days. I have to look at the calendar to tell you for sure. But because there's all the things you can do after the baby's born to like see how close they were to their due date. My midwife guesses that she was probably 40 in like 3 days, something like that. So somewhere around it, right around being due, right? When they tell us that they're due. So it was, it was a Saturday night that it was just normal. I had been having Braxton Hicks a lot, that was consistent for both my pregnancies. I didn't know when I was pregnant with Abby that's what that was. I kept saying that she was trying to escape because it would just feel like this pressure like in the front. So I'd be like, oh, she's trying to escape again. And then it happened when I was at an appointment and my midwife was like, that is a Braxton Hicks. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's good to know. So I had no clue. But I had been having them super early, like second trimester they were happening a lot. So I had been having them pretty consistently, but nothing out of the ordinary, just my typical. And then it was a Saturday night before she was born. Saturday night, I started to lose my mucus plug. And I was like, oh, look at that. And I didn't know at the time that it could come back. I didn't know that then. But I was like, okay, something could be starting. So this is really cool. Nothing really changed that night. I went to sleep. Everything was fine. Next morning, my husband and I went to brunch. And while we were there, I was like, I'm having a lot of these Braxton Hicks. They're coming more than I'm used to, right? So we were sitting there, and it was taking forever for us to get our food, forever. So I just looked at my phone, and I was like, let's see what time it is. Okay, I'll just wait for the next one. And then it came, and they were coming no more than 12 minutes, apart. And then one came at 7, and I was like, hold on. What's happening? Which throughout, and this is just with my first pregnancy, throughout the entire pregnancy and in labor, my whole family was getting play-by-play updates for everything. Every appointment, everybody would get everybody would ask me. So then I would just send the mass updates to everybody. This was my blood pressure. This was this. This was this. So that was very typical in the last few weeks of pregnancy, because especially my mom had her babies early. So everyone was like, you're going to have your baby early. You're going to have your baby early. No one expected me to go anywhere near my due date, because my mom, I was 4 weeks early. My sister was 5. My brother was 6. So very early, not just a few days. So everyone expected Ashley's going to have her babies early. Right. And so we're getting close to 40 weeks, and everyone's like, where is this freaking baby? So everyone's texting me every day, are you feeling something? Are you doing this? And I'm like, not yet, not yet. So at that point, getting the text, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? I'm having Braxton Hicks. This is what it is. This is what it is. So that was that's just how it was. And so after we had brunch, I was like, let's go home because I feel like we need to be home now because what if I'm going into labor? I don't want to be out. Because again, first baby, you don't know what's going to happen. So you hear these crazy stories of people having like 2-hour labors or people who are having super, super long labors. And I'm like, who knows what I'm going to have? So I want to be home because I don't want to have a baby in a car. So we went home, and then just throughout the day, it just stayed consistent, like no more than 12 minutes. By the afternoon into the evening, they were more like 5 to 7 minutes apart. They still weren't super intense, but they were coming consistently. So I was texting my midwife and I was texting my doula, and my doula came over and she was like, okay, it's probably going to be baby time. And I was like, great, cool. So we started getting things ready, expecting things to pick up and like baby was going to come. And so she was there for a little bit and it wasn't getting more intense. They were still just kind of staying the way they were. And so she was like, okay, well, I'm going to go home. You guys try to sleep because if you're going into labor, you want to make sure that you're sleeping. So try to sleep tonight and then we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, we've been texting my midwife this whole time, keeping her in the loop. So go to sleep, try to sleep. I was watching movies like on the couch. My husband was sleeping on the couch and I would just like wake up from a contraction. I'm like, all right, here we go. And I would go back to sleep and then I would wake up. And that was just all night long. And then the next morning, it was still going the same way. Just contractions that I was able to sleep some, which was good, but it wasn't nothing, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my midwife, we had an appointment like later that week for the 40-week appointment, but she moved me. We went like first thing in the morning on Monday. So we went down there and I was still having contractions and she was like, okay, what do you want to do? Because that's the other thing I love about midwives. They ask you what you want versus just if you go into the hospital, they're like, this is what we're going to do. Right. So she's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I don't know. I've never done this. I've never had a baby. And so she was like, so here's your options. You can just go home and see how it goes. If you want a cervical check, I can do a cervical check. She was like, I would never do a cervical check on somebody who wasn't 40 weeks yet, except you've been contracting for over 24 hours at this point. And I was like, okay, well, let's just try it. Let's see where I'm at. Just why not? So we did a cervical check and I was at 2 centimeters. And she's like, well, we can do like a slight membrane sweep if you want to try to speed things up. What do you want to do? And I was like, well, might as well. Like, we've already been doing this a good long while. Might as well speed it up because I don't really want to do a whole another night of this is what I said. So she did that. And then we left the appointment. We sent the updates to the family. Everybody knew. And then we went to brunch again. I guess brunch was our thing because we just kept going to brunch.
I need to know where you went to brunch because where do you go to brunch?
We went to, where did we go? We went to, I think we went to Earth Cafe. That was the last place we went. Because we were down in like Santa Monica. So we went to Earth.
Oh, yeah. I was like,
and I was
that?
like,
Okay.
Yeah,
so good.
It was so good. But right, like from leaving my midwife appointment, things were automatically like, whew, hi. Mm-hmm. Hello, friend. Labor. It is much more intense now and coming much faster. And I was like, okay, but I can go to brunch. I can still do brunch. We should do this. And my midwife was like, go do your last thing as like husband and wife before you have a baby. And I'm like, yes, we're going to do this. So we went to brunch. It was really crowded. And then, because it was in the middle, it was 2020. It was in the middle of COVID. So like everyone's wearing masks, the whole thing. We go up to order. And I have contraction. It was like the longest one that I had right as the lady asked me what I want, and nobody can see because I have this mask on. So I just like stand there and stare at her because I can't speak through them anymore. I'm having to breathe through them. So I'm like, and she's like, what do you want? And I finally ordered after the contraction was over. And I can't remember what I got.
You needed that Nutella latte.
I honestly don't remember. I have a picture somewhere. No, the latte I got like the matcha one that has the matcha with the espresso and the chocolate, and it's like really pretty. So I got that one.
Wow.
So I was sitting there.
Caffeine.
It was, and there's like, it's like a soup bowl. It's not even like
it's a soup bowl.
Yeah.
It's bigger than your face.
It is. So we sat there and my husband's like, let's take a picture, right? I'm in the middle of a contraction, so it's like my kind of hold the smile. And so he's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to like go for a walk? And I was like, no, we're going home. Like, sorry for round 2. As soon as we eat, we have to go home. So we went home. Things just got so much more intense. I spent most of the day on my hands and knees. We just watched movies. We watched Lord of the Rings, all of them. From Saturday to Monday, we watched all the Lord of the Rings, including The Hobbit.
Wow.
Because I wasn't sleeping. I just was like, we'll turn on the next one.
Resting, right. Kind of lulls
Yeah,
you
we
to
were
sleep.
resting. Yeah. So lots of hands and knees, lots of sitting on the couch, lots of like doing all the things. And then later that night, when it gets to like evening of Monday, I have no recollections of times. I know nothing. So the first person that came over was my doula. We had like told her first because the plan was, because we were going to have a lot of people, which my midwife's like, you know that every person you add adds an hour to your labor. And I was like, okay, yeah, but it'll be fine. So because of where we lived and I didn't know how I was going to like handle labor, I didn't know how we had a dog and a cat and we have like a big dog. So I was like, I don't want the dog here. We were in an apartment. We couldn't go put the dog outside. So we were like, we have to get the dog out of here. So my dad was going to come pick up the dog. And then my mom and sister were going to come like as labor progressed and baby was going to get there. And the plan was to just call them to get there towards the end. So my doula had come and was there with us and just helping us through all the thing, making sure I was eating, drinking, all the things you're supposed to do. And it was very intense and it was very long and it was a lot of back labor. Ooh, so much back labor. And so we went, I don't know what time it was, but my mom and sister texted that they were on their way. And so my doula was like, as soon as they get here, I would suggest you and your husband just go to the shower, like use the hot water, just like have space that's just you guys, and then they can help me set up stuff. And I was like, cool. So they get there, we go into the shower. I don't know how long I was in the shower. I have no idea, but I had the water so hot because I asked him, because you know how you're not supposed to like get in hot tubs and stuff when you're pregnant. I love hot water. And I was like, what are the rules for labor? Because I want this water hot. And they're like, you can have it as hot as you want. I was like, great. So I'm sitting, I had a shower chair because my grandpa had surgery, and instead of throwing it away, I took it because I was pregnant. I was like, I want to sit in the shower. That sounds great. So I had a shower chair.
So
and
smart.
I sat there and it's the best.
You need one.
Do it.
I literally saw one on the side of the road, Ashley. And Jake
I
was
wouldn't
like,
do that.
Who would reuse that? Like, that's so disgusting. I was like, and I looked at it and I was like, this girl might use that. Because our shower is
I could do
a pinky size.
Oh yeah,
space.
teeny tiny.
No,
Note
Get
to
a
Tessa.
shower
I
chair.
don't know.
A shower chair. Just a little
100%.
stool.
This is
Just anything.
what kind of stool would you put in the
Any
shower?
stool.
There's so many options. Okay, we'll
talk about
continue.
There's so many options. So many options. So we're in the shower forever. My sweet husband was so wonderful because he was just we didn't have like the shower that like the handheld shower. We just had, the one up
Right.
there. Words.
Attached.
We just had
the
that.
attached shower.
The attached shower head. Yeah. So my husband was in there giving me like counter pressure. So I'm sitting on the chair and he's standing there. He's got the water like getting on his face. He was such a trooper. Such a trooper. He was so hot. He would just like stand up against the wall that was cold. He's like, oh my gosh. Because I made him stay in there forever. And he just kept like, filling up the water and pouring it on my back. And it was so sweet. So sweet. So while we were in the shower, because things had been, by the time my doula had gotten there that night, they were already 4 minutes apart. Like my contractions, like 3 to 4 minutes. And so it was just like lots going on. And I was getting like 30-second break in between, maybe. That's like where we were at. And so when we got in the shower, it was 2 minutes. There was like a 2-minute long contraction. And there were no breaks. It was like as soon as it ended, the next one started. So the entire time I was in the shower. And so I'm like making all the sounds, doing all the things. And I was in there. I again, I don't know what time, but at some point, because my doula was sitting outside timing them. She was sitting on the floor timing them. And she was talking with my midwife and called her. And she was like, Abby's coming. Sounds like you're in transition. You're doing great. And I was like, awesome, transition. That means I'm almost there. It's going to be great. And so once my midwife gets there, we had already set everything up. We had started, she was like, fill up the birth pool for her. So they had filled it up. And then as they were coming inside, my mom came in and was like, Abby's here. You want to come out? We can get in the birth pool. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So I come out of the shower, trying to get off of that shower chair. I was like, I don't want to be out of the hot water for like more than 30 seconds. So we are going to run to the shower. I was like, wait, she's here? Okay, we'll go. And I got into the pool, and when I got out, she wasn't inside yet. So they had come inside eventually. They had to bring everything up. We were on the second story of the apartment. There was no elevator. It's a lot to lug. So it took them a minute to get up there. And so I was in the birth pool for a little while. They set up everything, and then they, used the Doppler. Everything sounded good. And then they were like, can we do a check just to see where you're at? And I was like, yeah, go for it. It's going to be great. I'm in transition, guys. And so it was my midwife and her assistant. And my midwife was very pregnant at the time. She ended up having her baby like a few weeks after. But so she was like, can Johanna check you? Like, are you good with that? Because like, it's a lot to leave. And I was like, go for it. Like, she can do it. And she did. And she didn't say anything. She was just like, you need to get out of the tub. And I started crying because I knew. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not as far progressed as everybody thinks. And then I was like, why are these contractions like this? If I'm not, what is happening? So I got out. I was crying. I was so disappointed. And so I got onto the bed, and they had me do like the mile circuit. We're doing all these things. So uncomfortable. Everything was so uncomfortable. And I just because I wasn't getting a break. I wasn't getting any time to relax between anything. So we were on the bed for a while, and then they're like, why don't you go to the toilet? Like, go do the toilet. And I'm like, all right.
Dilation station.
Yeah. No, it is not my friend. Not my friend. So I was in the bathroom. I was sitting there, and my husband sat on the birth ball in front of me, and I was like, this is horrible. Like, no, I don't like this at all. So I was sitting there through the contractions, and it was actually horrible. And I just sat there for the longest time. And then at one point I was like, I can't do it. And I got up and I went to my midwife, and I was like, how long do I have to sit on that? They're like, you need to sit longer. And I was like, how many contractions do I need to sit through? I'm like standing in my bedroom. I'm like trying to talk through these contractions. And they're like, you just need to sit there. And I was like, give me a number. So I don't remember what the number was, but I sat there and did that for a while. And then I got back on the bed, and I was so tired. I was so tired. I was like dizzy tired at this point. Yeah. So we did more mile circuit, and then they were like, well, maybe you just need to rest so everybody can leave. And that's something, like, I panicked. I was like, if everyone leaves, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I'm not safe without my midwife gone. No. This is not something that I could do by myself. Yeah. So I was like, you can't leave. But at that point, they'd been there for so long. And the sun was up at this point, and they brought up the idea of, like, what do you think of a transfer? And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, what do you think of going to the hospital and getting an epidural? Because you're not progressing. Like, what do you think about getting an epidural to see if that will let you just rest while you progress? Because you're not resting. I literally could not relax my body. Like, every muscle was so tense, and I could not rest at all. And so
actually, this is day. So this all began Saturday morning, correct?
Saturday night.
Yeah.
Saturday night was when I started losing. Yeah, Saturday night,
okay.
And now it's Monday night.
Monday night.
Or no, it's Tuesday morning.
It's Tuesday morning.
Yeah, Tuesday morning.
Okay.
So long.
So yeah, I just wanted to get that.
Sunday
timeline.
morning is when contractions were like started, and now it's Tuesday morning.
Brunch number one.
Yeah, yes. Brunch number one was Sunday. Brunch number 2 was Monday.
Perfect.
Sun came up on Tuesday, and I'm still in labor. And so I was like, I don't know. And I just wanted some space to be alone. And I was with my husband again. Still, I'm not really talking or thinking because, contractions every second of every
Right.
minute that is happening. And so my doula and my midwife came in. They're like, I think that you should. I think that that would be good for you. And I was like, all right, that's what we're doing. And so we did not, I was so set on a home birth. I didn't pack a hospital bag. I didn't do anything. Like I packed nothing. I was not prepared to transfer because I wasn't going to transfer. So they're just randomly grabbing things and throwing it into a bag and grabbing like clothes to put on me because I'm like in my bra and underwear still from laboring. And so we had to get me down the stairs. It took 3 people to carry me because I couldn't even walk anymore because I was so tired. And I would like sort of walk and then a contraction would hit. And if they weren't holding tight, I fell to the floor and like was on my hands and knees on the concrete. The people must have thought I was crazy in the apartment. So I get into the car and we're like 10 minutes from the hospital. My mom drives and I was like, no, I'm not sitting in the backseat by myself. Somebody's with me. So my husband was there. I hadn't, because I'd been laying down for a while, I hadn't gone to the bathroom. And then I started having contractions. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to pee. I'm literally going to pee right now because I can't. Everything's being squished and I'm sitting up. And so I peed all over my car. It was great. I was like, I'm so sorry. And at that point, I thought my water had broken because I had a little bit more bloody show in it. I don't know. I thought that it had broken. And so we're on FaceTime with my midwife and she's like, show me what's happening. And so we do all of that. And so she called in and she had told the hospital we were coming. She was like, when you get there, you need to tell them that you think her water broke. So we get there, they get me in a wheelchair, they wheel me in. My husband left his phone in the car. So he ended up having to run back while I'm in security. And again, it's COVID. So everything is so locked down. Like it was a miracle. My husband was even allowed to come in and we got me through triage. I felt like I was on an episode of Grey's Anatomy. Everything was just kind of blurry around me. I'm just like being rolled through. It was honest. I felt like I was in a movie. I was like, way to make an entrance, Ashley. We get up there and I will say like the nurse that we had was incredible. She was there from the time we got there to the time Eddie was born. And she was an angel that the Lord had sent to us in that hospital. She was so wonderful. And so I got there and I was like, give me the epidural, give me all these things. And they're like, sign these papers, sign this, get the anesthesiologist. And I was like, get them right now. And so he came in and he did it. They were like, you have to lay still. And I was like, I physically cannot lay still. Like every time a contraction was happening, my entire body was trembling. So it took multiple nurses and my husband, like literally everybody holding me down. And it was the one time like I actually screamed during a contraction because it was the only way my body could like let something out was while they were putting the epidural in. So that was real cool. So after the epidural kicked in, it was good. It worked really, really quickly, which I prayed for. I was like, please, because they're like, it's going to take a while. I was like, no, please let it work now. And it did, but it worked too good. I could not feel anything from like my belly button down. Could not move my legs, could not do anything. So I could not feel when I just could not feel anything. So they let us rest for a little while. It was very sweet. We did bring a diffuser, so I got to have my oils. The nurse went and found somewhere, like she found some fake candles somewhere in the hospital and brought them in and like turned off the lights. It was so
sweet.
And she like turned on our playlist. We ended up with only one phone and one charger. So it was an interesting time to try to get pictures of all of this and do everything. But it was good. So I got to the hospital at some time that morning and then got the epidural. When I got the epidural, I was 5 centimeters, or right before they put it in because they check you before. And they're like, okay, it's probably going to be a while. 15 minutes after I got the epidural, they came and checked again and I was at a 10. And I was like, what? Because I was just laying there and they're like, it's probably going to be a little while. I'm going to check you and then we'll have the doctor come check. And the nurse was like, oh, you're at a 10. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, you're at a 10. And I was like, what? I was like shocked and excited, but also terrified because I was like, does that mean I don't get to sleep? Because the deal was I was coming here so I could sleep. I literally asked them, I was like, do I not get to nap now? And they're like, no, you can rest a little bit. And I was like, okay, because I'm going to. That was the deal. So I rested for a little bit and they put me on my side and then put me on the other side. And then they were like, you want to try some practice pushes? Which I think those are hilarious because they're real pushes. They just say practice pushes. It's very
because the doctor's not in yet.
no, yeah, it's practicing. And I was like, this doesn't
Coaching
feel
you
like
through.
practice. So we went to do the practice, and I was like, okay. And I really wanted to be in a different position, but I was laying on my back, and I was like, at least sit me up. I can't feel anything, but I know I don't want to be flat on my back. Like, do not want that. And so we had my midwife on FaceTime, because that was the only option we had. And when the doctor came in to check me right before the practice pushes, he checked me and made sure I was at 10, and then they let me rest for a little bit. But when they checked me, he was like, your water's still intact. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I thought it broke, but what do I know? I just peed a lot, I guess. So I was like, great, my water's intact. And then the nurse had said, like, well, ask the doctor if he thinks that we should break your water. And I was like, well, I don't want that. Why do we need to break my water? And so the doctor was like, he didn't say anything. He was just like, oh, your water broke. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw him hand the amnio hook to the nurse. So he broke my water without my consent. Yeah, which was not the best. He was just like, oh no, I was like, did you break it? And he was like, it just broke when I felt. And I was like, oh.
Oh, Ashley.
Yeah.
I did not know.
So it was
Horrible.
yeah, that was not the best. That was not great. And I know not all doctors are like that, but that was just another thing of like, oh, okay.
Oh.
That's why I didn't want to be here. But so then that was that. I told them I wanted delayed cord clamping when it was time to push, right? So I'm doing my practice pushes. They let me like see the mirror. I could like see her head. It's like, oh my gosh, this is the weirdest thing ever. And so then I told the nurse like everything I wanted. I was like, I don't want you to cut her cord. I want you to hand her to me immediately. Like, this is what I want. And they were like, okay, we'll do that. And we told the doctor too. We were like, this is what we want. And so I pushed her out. I did not feel it because I couldn't feel anything. So I was pushing. Thankfully, I could feel the contractions pushing. So I was able to like know what I was doing because I could feel the top of it, but I could not feel anything. She came out, and the only reason I knew she was out was because I heard her cry. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had a baby. And so then the doctor was like, wouldn't hand her to me at first. I was like, give her to me. He's like, hold on. I was like, give her to me. And he's like, hold on. I was like, what are you waiting for? Hand me my baby. And so I'm yelling at him. Hurl's yelling at him. My midwife on FaceTime is screaming at him to hand her to me. And they hand her to me and have cut her cord. And I was like, I wanted delayed cord clamping. And they're like, we did delay. That was delayed. I was like, why wouldn't you hand her? And he's like, the cord was too short. I had to cut it. And I was like, what? So they handed her to me. We got to do the skin to skin, which was good. It was all kind of a whirlwind at that point. I just had a baby. I'm still on all of this stuff. When they transferred me to postpartum, I couldn't feel my legs with the epidural for over 12 hours after she was born. I could not move my legs. They had to keep the catheter in. It was like the next day that I could finally feel everything. So it was an interesting transition. Postpartum at the hospital was not great. The nurses were very unkind, and it was very stressful, and it was very hard, and I wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible, which we did. We within the 24 hours, we were like, out, we are gone. We are going home. And then when we got home, we continued our midwifery care. So she came and did all the postpartum visits and did this whole 6-week thing. And I never saw that OB again. I saw him once when he came and saw me in the hospital when I was still there. But after that, have not seen him since. That was the birth of Ev.
Wow. Yeah, it is intense. And you went through a lot. That's a lot. And just that obstetric violence, that he did not get your consent. He did not ask you. And it's just so hard because those things happen in a whirlwind. Like we all know, when you're in the hospital room as a doula assisting, it's it doesn't, where there's that moment of hold on, doctor, listen to the mom, listen to the dad, what they're telling you. But he took your baby and cut the cord and didn't hand her. And that's just the most violating thing. That's my child. That's not your child.
Yeah.
No, that's a hard,
for sure.
That's just so hard. And so coming out of that and into your next birth, how did you prepare differently, maybe your body a little bit differently with Leviel's birth? And then how did Leviel's birth go?
Yeah, so Leviel, postpartum with Evie, I started going to a chiropractor. And when I did, I was like, why didn't I do this my entire pregnancy? I was really dumb to not do this. So I continued seeing her. I saw her for the first time like a few weeks postpartum, and then just continually saw her and took Evie to her at least once a month. So she saw me the entirety time postpartum. And then as soon as I found out I was pregnant, she was one of the first people that I told. And she actually like knew, she could feel it in my body. She's like, something's different, Ashley. I don't know what's
It's
different.
crazy.
And the next day,
That's so cool.
yeah, it was
They can feel the relaxin. Like they can know.
At that point,
Yeah, like Webster certified, they can know either when you're on your period. They're like, she's saying, like, you're either about to start your period or you're pregnant. I'm like, well, I'm about to start my period, girl. And like, she can know. But she knows, she's like, no, I know it's your period because it's not fully like, if you were pregnant, it would be like way more loose. Like it's crazy. But yeah, she can, she's like, I've told a lot of women they're pregnant.
No, she didn't tell me, but she was like, something is off, because I saw her, and then it was that day, like that I was like, could I be pregnant? Which I had a dream of like a month before I found out that I was pregnant. I was like, interesting. So I had a dream about it, so it was already kind of in the back of my head. And then the day I found out, like, I wasn't feeling good, given I had only had like half an English muffin and like 2 matchas that day. Not the best for a breastfeeding person who apparently was also pregnant. So I felt horrible. And I was like, I just guess I need to sleep. I had too much matcha. That's it. And then I was like, something's so off with my body. And then I found out I was pregnant. I was like, oh my gosh, look at that. So, yeah, it's so crazy. So pregnancy with him, like, oh, I will say, after I had Evie, literally right after I pushed her out and she was on my like chest, I told my husband, I was like, let's have 17 more. And he was like, what? I was like, I want 17 more. This is the best feeling ever. I want all the babies. And he was like, after all that, and I was like, yes. I don't know. Sleep deprivation, all the hormones, lots going on.
Yeah. All the things.
Something.
It does. I was like, I want all the babies. So we knew that like we would be having a baby at some point. Pretty soon, not crazy soon. I was like 9-10 months postpartum when I got pregnant. So it wasn't like anything crazy, like 3 months. Lord bless those women. That is that I can't even imagine that.
It's a lot.
But pregnancy was good. I was definitely more depleted. I felt different and different genders, so I know there's all these different things. But it wasn't even like morning sickness. I just felt gross. Like I needed to eat or I didn't feel good. I wasn't ever like super nauseous. I just was like, I feel so gross. So I needed to eat. So I was like eating rice crackers like all day, like so many crackers. And I knew I had lost a lot of weight in between the babies. And so I knew, I was like, I'm still breastfeeding. I need to eat more. So in this pregnancy, I really, really focused on eating a lot of high calorie but high nutrient dense foods to make sure that I was like getting everything that I needed, because I didn't want to wither away as I'm sustaining the life of my child that's out of me and the one that's in me. So I worked really hard on that, which I think that there's a lot that goes, you guys, we could talk for days about the nutrition and all the things with pregnancy, but that was one thing I really, really focused on. Super, super high proteins, just putting collagen in everything, collagen is all the good things. I don't like milk, but I've always said I don't like milk. I don't have very many foods that I don't like, but milk was one of them, except that I had started giving my daughter raw milk when I got pregnant because it hurt to nurse because of the hormones. It was just so sore. So I was like, I can't keep doing this. So after she turned 1, I started giving her raw milk. And then I started drinking that through pregnancy, which now I love it. Oh my gosh, it's so good. So good. But that was one of the things that I did differently, just like really, really focused on getting those calories and hydration, all those things. I didn't focus as much on physical things. And because I was under the care of my chiropractor, she was very clear. Like, she helped me to know what I should and shouldn't do. Where with my first, I'm like, I can do it. if I can do it, I'll do it. And she was like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Let's not do that. And I was like, okay. Yeah. So I really, really limited a lot of the stuff that I did physically. As far as like the crazy yoga stuff that I did, I still did walking. I still did my dancing. But as far as like acrobatic things, I did a whole lot less. Yeah. And I saw my chiropractor so much. I was with her at least once a month the first 2 trimesters. No, the first trimesters, it's once a month, and then it's every 2 weeks, and then it goes to every week for the last, like, 10 weeks. Yeah. So good. Honestly, I wish I could live like that forever, going to the chiropractor every week, but I cannot. It's not sustainable. But I would love that. It was a great time. So it was so good. That was the biggest thing, was the chiropractor. And I did acupuncture the whole pregnancy, which was, I was like, I'm going to do all the things to prep to help my body do labor more efficiently after. Because my labor, I didn't even say this, it was a total, right? So Evie's labor was 56 hours. I had gone to the hospital after the 48, 50 hour mark. That's when we decided to transfer. So crazy. So I was like, I don't really want to do that again. And I want to make sure I have my home birth. So I was doing everything under the sun. I was doing all of the physical prep, lots of stretches. I was doing the mile circuit so early, partially because it was so uncomfortable in labor. I was like, I don't want
It's so uncomfortable.
Especially the child's pose one.
Knee to chest during a labor contraction. Oh my gosh. The worst one.
I always call it child's pose. Me and my yoga life over here. They shake you. Yeah.
Yes.
But it was so uncomfortable. I was like, I'm going to practice that every day so that it's not uncomfortable for me. So I was doing every little thing that I possibly could. And then once I hit the 3rd trimester, I was doing a ton of like mental prep. I was listening to all of like my hypnobirthing. I listened to every single birth podcast that I could. All of them. And I'll say that with a caveat because I listened to all of them, but if I knew it was like a not good story or a hospital story or a transfer story, I didn't listen to those unless there was a redeeming story afterwards. I just was like, I'm going to be very specific what I allow into my headspace and into my heart this time around because I was just so open the first time about everything. I was talking with everybody and it's not that I felt invincible. I just was confident and it was a little bit naive in hindsight is that I just was allowing a lot and not thinking through how sacred the time is and how I need to be more protective of it. So this time around I was a whole lot more protective and I was a whole lot more quiet about it. I wouldn't not tell people that I was having a home birth, and a lot of people assumed that I probably would just based off of like knowing me, but I think I told that I was having a home birth. It wasn't very many people that I actually told that I was going to do that. I just was like, yeah, we're having a baby, blah, 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 blah. I had my daughter at this hospital, and that was kind of it. And I didn't really say anything else. And also just with all of my appointments, I did it a little bit more relaxed. I wasn't giving updates to everybody. I just was a whole lot more quiet, very purposefully, because I was like, I don't need any outside influences because of how last time went. I need to be very, very protective of this time, this space, all of it. So that was probably the 3 main things that I did was like the physical, the nutritional, and then the mental. Those were my biggest things for pregnancy and labor prep. And pregnancy was also very good. It wasn't anything crazy, didn't have any big scares or anything like that. It was much more comfortable physically because I was going to the chiropractor. I get my chiropractor be like, how are you feeling? I was like, I feel 10 times better than I did at this point with Evie. Like, so much better because I was being adjusted and making sure. And I should have known because I've had, before I had children, I was like in a car accident and had some pelvis issues. I really should have thought through, like, maybe we should see a chiropractor during pregnancy. Didn't. And so just hindsight's 20/20. Never will do it again. That was that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's a lot. You don't know what you don't know. Like, you can research so much and ask all the questions. And then, like, if you had one person tell you, like, you should see the chiropractor, you might have been like, oh, maybe I should. But it's like, if you're in that kind of world
if
where
you
you're
don't
doing
know,
what you... you're doing what you think you should do. And it was so fun. Ash and I were pregnant at the same time, and we would go to the
Always
same
the best.
chiropractor, same midwife, and same acupuncture. So we could sync up
We would do
our appointments. It was so fun. And I was like,
It was so
it's like a full-time job at that point, working, you were
Especially
taking
at the
care of your
end.
first baby. Yeah. And at the end, and then you're seeing all these things. So I was like, we did them together. We got some little rests in. It was so fun. So
It
that's
was
just a little
so fun.
fun thing to go
we
through.
always
that
did
together.
acupuncture together.
Yes.
We did. We scheduled our like chiropractor appointments and our midwife appointments. Our midwife did like joint appointments for
Yes,
us. So we would
that
like,
was so
it was
fun.
us and our husbands. Oh, it's so good.
It was so fun.
Honestly, 10 out of 10 recommend being pregnant with your best friend and doing all the same things as her.
It's so great. And I will say it helped keep us accountable because like I would text you like, hey, I'm making an appointment. You want me to make you one? Or
Yep.
you would text me. So like that was really helpful.
We
like,
actually did it.
yes.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was just me, I'd be like, I'm so tired. I just want to go home, make dinner. It's like, okay, no, Ashley made my appointment. Like I
It's been
have
too
to
long
go.
of a day.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So
good.
also a good tip, ladies.
Yeah.
If you're pregnant with someone
Do it with your
nearby you,
friends.
do things
Yes.
together. Okay. So you prepped your mind, the mental, the physical, the nutritional, and then how
Yeah.
did your birth go with him?
It was great. So this time around, planning for people who are going to be there, we had said after my daughter's birth, like, I don't even think we had gotten home yet. We were like, no one except the birth team is going to be anywhere. Like, no one's going to be there. And it's nothing against anybody. It's just, it was so important to me to have my home birth. I wasn't going to let anybody who didn't know exactly what was going on and know what to do. I wanted the professional people who knew the birth space and knew what to do. That's what I wanted in the space. And then everybody else, because it's a home birth, you could come over literally
Right.
right after, like
Exactly.
totally fine. We can
You're
have a
still
party.
really nice.
No, yeah, I was like, it'll be great. It'll be fine. But I knew that like for the birth itself, I was like, this is what we're gonna do. I don't want to, and I don't want to tell anybody that I'm feeling anything until I absolutely 100% know that baby is coming. Like, I'm not going to do this whole, I'm updating you with every little thing that I'm feeling. Because I did have consistent Braxton Hicks the whole time again, which was fine. And then I had like a little break from them before I went into actual labor, which was so interesting. My midwife said that was going to happen. I was like, how interesting. So
Body knows.
I anticipated that he would probably come a little bit earlier, just second baby, like body knows what to do. I was like, I think that that's what's going to happen. And then my due date came and I was still pregnant. Like we had gone a few weeks before my due date, we had gone to a dance camp. Everyone was like, she's going to dance the baby out. She's going to dance herself into labor. It's going to be great. I did not. I just danced very, very quickly. And yeah, so my due date came and I was like, I'm still pregnant. Okay, cool. So that day I was like, well, if he's not coming today, we might as well do a lot of stuff. And so we like washed the car, like we physically washed the car ourselves. We like got the hose out, did the whole thing. My daughter thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Said that she kept trying to drink the water and we were like, that is so yucky. Don't do that. So it was good.
He was just preparing.
Well, yeah,
You'll understand why in a little bit.
yeah. So it was just going to be my birth team, right? I'll jump back to that. Just the birth team. And it was going to be my midwife, her assistant, who were there last time. And they also had a student midwife who they had asked, like, how do you feel about, I know you're being super protective. How do you feel about that? And I'm like, it's a professional. That's allowed. So the student midwife was going to come too. And then I had my doula. And Shayna was my doula this time. Because why not have your best friend be your doula?
Oh, so great.
Yeah, so due date came, I did all my things, and then I was like, all right, nothing has changed. I'm just going to go to sleep, and it's going to be great. So I went to sleep, and then at like 3 in the morning, I woke up, and I had to go to the bathroom. I was like, oh, that's annoying. So I got up, and I went to the bathroom, and then I was like, I'm having Braxton Hicks, cool. And then I laid down, I was like, oh, that was like kind of uncomfortable. And then like 10 minutes went by and I was like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom again. How rude. So I got up. I was so annoyed. And so I got up and I went to the bathroom. And I was like, okay, that wasn't comfortable because I had one while I was going to the bathroom. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to get into bed. But that was definitely different. And I laid there, and I was trying to go back to sleep, and I had another one. And I was like, okay, that's something. That's something. So I'm just going to lay here. And I'm going to try to go to sleep. And then I had a few more, and I wasn't going to sleep in between them. And I was like, okay, I don't know what to do with this. And then I wasn't like able to fall back asleep a ton. And then I just like, I'll just check. I'll just look at my clock, and I don't want to start timing them, but I just want to see one. And it was like 8 minutes. And I was like, oh, okay. And so then they just consistently were 7 to 8 minutes apart. And I was like, all right. And so at like 5 a.m., because they had been consistent, I texted Shayna and I texted my midwife. And I was like, hey guys, something's happening. It's not anything too crazy. I'm just laying here. And they're like, okay, well, keep me posted. So like at 7 a.m., my husband and my daughter got up and they had breakfast. And I was just like, I'm just going to stay in bed. Like, I'm going to stay in bed. I'm going to keep doing all of my breathing. I had turned on my like hypnobirthing, and I was very, very focused on my breathing. Because it's another thing from Evie's birth. I was very vocal and my throat was so dry. And they didn't let me drink at the hospital, and it was miserable. And I like lost my voice. It was a lot. So I was like, I don't want to lose my voice, and I don't want a sore throat. So I am going to try to not make sounds as much until I absolutely need to.
Yeah.
Just like these little things in my head that I wanted to do. And so I was practicing my breathing, and I was just, because I was able to talk through them still, 100%, but I was choosing not to. I was choosing to just breathe through them. And I had been, over the past few weeks, breathing through all of my Braxton Hicks. Like, I would just stop and breathe. And my husband's like, are you okay? And I was like, yes, I'm practicing. Leave me alone. So,
don't bother me.
Yes, don't bother me. I'm fine. I'm just breathing. So I did that. And then my husband had been texting, I think both Shayna and my midwife. I think Pearl was texting you too. I don't really know.
We were on a thread.
So he was, I love
or
it.
a chat
so he was
together.
giving them updates. Yeah, giving them updates, keeping them informed. And Abby was like, it's daytime, so it's day labor now. So she should get up and she should do things. She shouldn't just like lay around. Like this is what my recommendation is. And I was like, okay, got it. So I got up and I got dressed and I ate a breakfast burrito, and then I was just bouncing on my birth ball, practicing my breathing, and sweet little Evie here would come over, and every time I would breathe, she would like put her hand on my leg and like breathe out, which it was so sweet. And I really wanted her there. It was hard because she was only 18 months old, so I wasn't sure. Like, everyone I talked to was like, are you sure you want her there? My midwife's like, we don't even know like how she's gonna do. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to traumatize her, but I also want her to be there if she wants to be. So that was the plan. Like, she was going to be there. We could take her outside if we needed to. In worst case scenario, we could call like one of my family members. But she was so sweet, and she was just holding on to my hand. It was the kindest thing. So she was sleeping. They're both sleeping now. It's great.
You're just rocking it right now. I hope some people are just gonna now choose to watch it because you are just holding these two babies.
Yeah, you guys can't see if you're listening. Ashley is holding both of her sleeping children right
as
now.
This is gone. Yeah, as this has gone on, they've just woken up. And
So sweet.
So I ate my breakfast. I was doing my thing, and they were getting closer together, but I was having breaks. It was incredible. I was so happy about it because I didn't have breaks with my other labor. So I was like, this is a dream. So I was so calm. I was so happy. Everything was so just normal. And they were coming like 4 minutes apart. And then some of them were coming like 3 minutes. And my midwife, she told us earlier, she's like, I'm going to come into the valley and do my appointments today. I'm going to come closer to you guys. And I was like, great. Because she's like, I don't want to miss it. So it was so sweet. So at that point, it's like closer to 10. And she's like, we're coming now. We're coming. So then I was like, well, we got to tell Shayna to come. And everybody got there like right at the same time. She was newly postpartum too. Her daughter was like 9 weeks old. So it was River and Shayna just rolling in.
So sweet.
He will probably just sleep like that, and it's great. Come on,
Amazing.
I love it. My sleeping children. It's hilarious. So so Shayna and Ripper got there, and then the whole midwife team got there, which was incredible. My dad very randomly showed up because he lived like right down the street from us, and he needed to pick something up. He had no idea I was in labor, but he came to pick something up, and Earl was like, "I'll go get it for you." He had no idea. He also like was very unaware because there was like another minivan, and he had no clue. He was like on his way to something, and he didn't even notice that there were people in my house. He was just like, I was being a little weird about this. I don't know. And because we weren't going to tell my family until it was certain. So it's like, the midwife team's going to get here, and we're going to be sure. So we got there, and they were like, "Have you nursed Evie today?" And I was like, "Nope." And they're like, "Well, why don't you try? Because that could be great. That can, like, the nipple stimulation for labor." I did for like 2 minutes. No, it was like 5 minutes because I had a few contractions. And Shayna had handed me like her contraction timer, and it was just yelling at me to go to the hospital. It's like, it's time. So I was laughing. And when Abby came in, she was like, "Are you sure that you're like, should we go?" And I was like, "I don't know." She's like, "You're so calm." And I was like, "I'm getting breaks, friend. Like, we're chilling." So after that, they like continued to be super intense. And I was on the birth ball. I was listening to my music. And then at one point, Abby was like, "Do you want to get in the birth pool?" And another thing in my head, I was like, I don't want to do water until I absolutely need to. And I don't want to get in the birth pool to be told I have to get out, so I'm going to wait. And I was like, I mean, yeah, I do. And she's like, "Why don't you get in?" And I was like, "Because I'm scared." She's like, "I knew it." She's like, "This is different birth. This is different baby. You can get in the birth pool if you want to." And I was like, "Then I want to." So I got in. It was incredible. It was so wonderful. I got in the water. She came over and she was like stroking my hair. And I got like, once I got in, I think I got like almost a 10-minute break in between contractions, which hindsight, we all know what that is. But it was so wonderful. I was sitting there, I was like, this is great. And then it was like, oh, this is really intense. And I had like thought like, I'll probably like lean back against the birth pool. No, I was on my hands and knees because leaning back against the birth pool, I'm very short, so my feet like don't touch the other side, and I felt so out of control. I was like, I can't press against anything. So I tried like 3 times, and I was like, screw this, absolutely not doing that. And so then I was on my hands and knees the rest of the time. And it was so intense. It was so intense. And at one point I looked up and I was like, this is really hard. And Johanna was like, yeah. And the yeah that she gave me, I will never forget it because it was the yeah, and I like looked at her and I looked over at Sheena and I looked over at just like everybody in the room. And all of these women surrounding me, like they knew what I meant when I said it was really hard because every single one of them had experienced it. So I felt so like, I felt so connected, and I was like, oh my gosh, all these people have done this. I can do this. They're here to support me. This is incredible. So one of my friends, one of her songs was on my birth playlist. And so it was while the birth team was there, her had come on, and she had a beautiful, for her son who was 3 weeks younger than Evie, had the most beautiful like birth center birth too. So I was like, all of these women everywhere, like I feel so supported. Like her song is playing, all these people are here. So it was so sweet, and it was so, like, the Lord did so many things that were redeeming in this birth. And while I was in the birth pool, laboring away, it was so intense. There was, as I started I started to get grunty, Johanna's like, your water's probably going to break, and then we're going to have a baby. Not even 15 seconds later, my water broke, and I, like, heard it. I was like, there it was. And then it was, from water break to baby out was 13 minutes. So I like immediately started pushing. It was so intense. And I was like, I feel him coming out. This is the craziest sensation because I didn't feel anything with Evie. I was like, my bones are moving. My body is opening. What is happening? And I remember, like, I feel his head coming out. I was like, this is so hard. He is so big. He wasn't that big. But in my head, I'm like, there's no way that I can stretch more. Like, he's out. Like, his head is out, and I just have to push out his body. And then Abby goes, we see his head. And I was like, you what? She's like, we see it. And I was like, no, it's in my head. I didn't say any of this because it's all in my head. I'm just in my labor land. I was like, his head is out. She was like, but you see his head. Keep pushing. And I was like, I told you see it. Of course it's out. It was really funny.
And if anyone's ever seen a head out in between your legs, I mean, you know what that looks like, right?
I wasn't looking. I was just feeling.
No, I'm saying like just the visual and the image of like the head out and the body still within you.
You can't miss it. A midwife could not have missed the body if her head was out.
No, 100%. So, yeah. Oh, she's up. Say hello, Abby.
Hi.
Okay.
Oh, what is he?
So I pushed him out to like his chin. And I was like, that's a weird place to push him to. And she's like, push him out. And then I pushed him out to his belly. And she's like, Ashley, push the baby out. And I was like, what? And I pushed him out. He was so slippery. And I like picked him up and I was like, whoa, this slippery baby just came out of me. This is the weirdest thing ever. And so I sat there in the birth pool and I was just crying my eyes out, saying I did it. It was like so emotional. Evie was there. Shannon was holding her. And so Evie saw it happen. She was really confused. She was like, why is mommy crying? What is going on? But we were sitting there. Oh, and while I was pushing, Shannon kept putting cold washcloths on my neck. Best thing in the world. Because I was simultaneously so hot. But I wanted to be like underwater. But I also was like needing ice. It was the weirdest sensation.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It was so good though. It was so beautiful. He came out. He was over a pound bigger than Ev was. Which I was like, I made a bigger baby. Look at me. And I did not expect him to be that big because I looked smaller with my second one, which was so interesting. But he was over a pound bigger.
The body.
Yeah, truly though. Truly. So it was so sweet. And then I got out of the birth pool and I went to the bed. I didn't have a placenta in the birth pool. It didn't come out. I don't know. I didn't push it out there. And they were like waiting for the thing. And like, we're not seeing it, so let's go to the bed. Went to the bed, pushed the placenta out. Evie went outside, got in the swing, fell asleep in the swing because she had not had a nap yet. So she fell asleep and then pushed the placenta out. He just hung out with me in the bed. Shayna made me mac and cheese. It was incredible. It was so good. It was so wonderful. And it was just like everything that I needed it to be. And just even down to like later that night, I had said a few weeks before, like, it would be so cool if it rained, like when he was born. Because I love the rain. That would be so fun. And that night it like thundered and it was so beautiful. And his first night on earth, it was just rainy and so beautiful. So it was just all the little details that I had been praying and hoping for, like, was everything that I wanted. And then we texted my family, like, as he was born, I think. I don't really know. I was like, we have to tell my family at some point. And my dad's like, wait, she had the baby? Because he had been there like 2 hours before. He's like,
I cannot.
So confused.
I cannot.
He was so confused.
That's like a sitcom right there.
Hilarious.
It was hilarious. It was so funny. And she was like, is he supposed to be here? And I was like, I don't know what he's doing here.
Is he taking your dogs? Why is he here right now?
Yeah. No, he's just picking up something. I don't know. It was so good. And then my sister and my brother and my mom came over and like made us food for dinner that night. It was just so sweet. And I felt significantly better. Oh my gosh. Because my labor, in comparison, right? It was 10 hours of labor from like first contraction to when he was born was 10 hours versus 56. So
Right.
I felt so much better postpartum. Oh my gosh. I was, for weeks after I was born, I like couldn't stand up straight. I was just a blob on the couch. I still was a blob. I take postpartum rest very seriously.
Yes,
so I like
you do.
lay around a lot. I know. So I don't know how you
It's
can't.
so good. It's so good that you do.
Like, yeah, I take it very seriously. Like and because I tore with Ev, I had stitches and it was a lot. And so my midwife's like, you shouldn't leave because we had stairs. She's like, you shouldn't go unless you absolutely have to for the first 3 weeks. And I was like, okay. First 3 weeks, I'm not doing anything besides like being on the couch. And like I would get up and like go to the bathroom and go to the kitchen. But I didn't go like anywhere else for the first little bit. Even though people were like, why don't you go do things? I'm like, nope. I'm doing postpartum rest. I am resting.
Yep. And so with Levio, you didn't tear, right?
Nope. I did not tear.
And
it was so good.
And he was bigger.
Yeah, there was like it was very cool too because the student midwife was there. So my midwife did things a little bit differently because she's teaching at the same time. So she's explaining things. She wouldn't explain that to parents if she's doing it. She was explaining like the medical stuff to the student midwife, which was so cool to see. It was so interesting.
It was so cool.
So, yeah, it was awesome. And he was here.
Yeah.
So sweet. And I have both
and
of them.
And he
They're
just had his...
So attached.
He just had
Just
his
turned
first birthday, right? Yeah.
Amazing.
Just, what is like
amazing.
2 weeks ago?
Yeah. Yeah, you were absolutely incredible. It was such a joy to be a part of it. And thank you for sharing your stories. Like, they are so encouraging and redeeming and wonderful. And the little things that you did for Leviel's birth and then just his birth in of itself, and how everything that you were hoping for, down to the little detail of rain, happened. And that's so beautiful. And you had a day birth so Evie could be there. And now Evie is the most obsessed 2.5, almost 3-year-old with birth that I know. She pretends day birth in the bathtub. So I love it.
She does.
And but how amazing that you're showing her and you're,
normalizing.
you're letting
She'll
her know
ask
that
me to watch birth videos.
I love it.
The first birth
so
video she
amazing.
ever saw was Shayna's.
I cannot.
So
I cannot. That is so cool because it's such a different perspective of just like, yeah. And not that it was, wrong that the way, even just, we didn't get to have that, right? As like little girls and like, and that, it's such a different perspective, but it's so cool that like, yeah, we all believe that this is something that we want to normalize and we love and we want to show our children something to be afraid of.
Yep.
And that this is actually just the biggest transformational thing you get to do.
Yeah.
And so cool. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Your
loved
yeah.
it. Loved
stories.
it.
Thanks for bearing with me and my child pile that just continually grew through the night.
Thank you. Thanks for
Seriously.
finishing it. We know that you have to now put them both back to bed. So thank you so much. Thank you. We're happy you were on today.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Hey Mama. We're so thankful you decided to join us today, and we hope you go forward in your day feeling encouraged and seen.
Here are a few ways you can connect with our community and support the show. The first way is to share the show with a friend via text or Instagram. You can follow and leave a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And finally, follow us on Instagram at For Mama Birth.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week for another episode.